Congratulations, Congratulations, Erika Slezak.
On March 17, Erika Slezak celebrated her 40th anniversary as Victoria Lord Davidson on One Life to Live.
Here's to you, Erika.
Part in an off-Broadway production of The Circle.
There's nothing like it to be live on stage. You're flying by the seat of your pants all the time.
During rehearsals, she became friends with one of her co-stars, an up-and-coming actor by the name of Brian Davies.
When I met her, I called a friend of mine she'd gone to school with in London. He said, "Oh, yes, Erika. She tends to accost people on the street."
We used to go for walks together in between shows. Just walking, talking.
She was very beautiful. She was a real woman. I'm attracted to strong, smart women. And she was like that.
For the next 3 years, the two remained platonic friends.
I guess I realized, probably a lot sooner than I'm willing to admit, that I was interested in him and more, but he was married. And that was, you know, hands off.
I lusted after her from a distance.
We were rehearsing a scene, and I looked into his face, and I thought, those are the best eyes I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, I'm totally nuts about this guy, and I can't do anything about it. And I kind of pushed it away. But I always thought, well, you know, I'll find somebody like him. I'll find somebody like him.
I went off to California to work after that. And that's when my first marriage sort of broke up.
Newly separated from his first wife, Brian returned to New York, where he and Erika began dating.
It just was so natural, whatever happened. There was never an awkward moment about it. It was wonderful.
But dating a soap star certainly had its liabilities.
We were having like a little argument, and not serious, but and she got very upset and started to cry. And I said, "Don't do that. I've seen you do that on television. It's too easy a trick for you to do."
After dating for almost 2 years, Brian finally proposed.
I do sort of offhand said, "Well, why don't we get married on the weekend or something like that?" And she said, "What?"
I said, "What is this, shall we get married?" I said, when did the will you ever come? When did the will you marry me? He said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous."
On August 4th, 1978, Erika and Brian were married in a quiet ceremony in Midtown Manhattan.
Please don't leave me.
Erika maintained her steady job on One Life to Live, and Brian pursued his own acting career in New York and Los Angeles, but the frequent separations put a strain on their relationship.
It's difficult to maintain a long-distance relationship.
Irony doesn't translate on the phone.
When you're tired at the end of the day and he says something and you think, well, what do you mean by that? You know, and you say, "No, nothing. What do you mean, what do I mean? You know I don't mean anything." And it's not good.
Despite the long-distance marriage, 16 months later, Erika became pregnant with their first child, Michael. 2 years later, in 1981, Erika had their second child, Amanda, but Brian was still working and living in Los Angeles part-time.
And that's when Brian said, "I can't do this anymore." He said, "I didn't wait all this time to have children, to be 3,000 miles away all the time."
And I thought, I'm just not going to go there anymore and for a long time, till the kids grow up.
So we sat down and we had a long kind of talk about what we wanted to do. He said, "I'm perfectly happy to come home and stay with my children."
Erika became the breadwinner, and Brian returned to New York to become a stay-at-home dad.
And I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Best thing I ever did.
Brian was working, but not so much.
From like 1st through 6th grade, I used to swim, and he would pick us up and take us to the pool every afternoon and then drive us home after that.
By that time I was home, I would make dinner, then they would finish their homework, so it was a real collaboration.
She always would try to come home no matter how late it was. Probably make sure my dad, my brother, and I didn't burn down the house while she was gone.
And laying his finger aside of his nose.
I had a wonderful relationship with ABC. I always had school holidays off. I never missed a field day. I never missed a school play.
As dedicated as she was to the work and the job, boy, when she left that studio, it was fly home to her kids.
They've had the most normal upbringing that we could possibly have given them within the confines of what our business is.
Erika's children did not find anything unusual about watching their mother appear on television 5 days a week.
It was something I grew up with. It was just, you know, it was Mom's job.
The multiple personalities I've always liked. I used to love it just to watch her go from one person to the next, like that.
Nikki is certainly rather amusing, especially when she just goes completely crazy, and the red wig is kind of funny.
Open your eyes, Vicky.
While Erika's children could separate fantasy from reality, her fans liked to believe that Vicky was an actual person.
Thank you. You're the only one I really want to see all day. It's like I got to meet Vicky.
Well, how nice. Thank you. And I'm glad you came out today.
Keep things alive and growing and beautiful.
My mother was devoted to One Life to Live and loved Erika Slezak. In fact, for a long time, while I was playing Sloane Carpenter and that marriage, the Vicky Clint thing was on thin ice and then it finally cracked, my mother was really upset. She said, "You're not going to break up that marriage." I said, I don't write this. I just show up and say the word.
I want to hear a little bit of Nikki come out. Oh, you better watch out, because she doesn't go away very easily.
When they see her on the street, they think, oh, it's Vicky. It's not a separate person. It's not Erika Slezak.
The family term is Vicky Watchers.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, how are you?
They stare, and they'll pretend not to, and then they like walk by the table 10 times.
Hi, how are you?
How are you, Erika?
Nice to see you.
I love you as Vicky, but I think you're hysterical as Nikki, but I love you as Erika Slezak.
Well, thank you.
You're Vicky and you're Tommy and everything else is so much fun.
Tommy's tiring.
I could tell it's exhilarating.
First time I ever did it, I went home and I said, I never knew it was so exhausting being a boy.
For fans, the fierce rivalry between Victoria Riley and Dorian Lord became one of the show's most popular storylines.
People have always said, who else would you play on One Life to Live if you weren't Vicky? Oh, Dorian, in a heartbeat. What a great character.
No wonder you've always hated me. No wonder you hated anyone who came between you and your precious daddy.
Dorian is there to always try to make trouble for Vicky.
Nothing can change the truth.
She was never just evil. There was always incredible justification for what she did. And it wasn't frivolous.
I'm not gonna hurt you. Listen to me. I won't let anybody hurt you. Shh.
Vicky has locked Dorian up in little rooms more often than I could ever tell you about, okay? Now, she's the good guy. How come Dorian always was supposed to be the bad guy?
Please, look, I've never done anything to you.
What is it between these two women? What is it?
Champagne, Dorian. Mother's milk to you, isn't it?
It was a relationship that would span nearly 2 decades.
Behind the scenes, we knew that underneath there was a lot of love and respect for one another. And when tape was rolling, they went after each other. And it was the one person that you got to see Vicky be really mean to.
We're a pretty damn good team.
As far as I'm concerned, the ending of that story has never accurately been revealed. Tune in.
Coming up, Erika loses the man she admires the most.
This was a man who could do no wrong in my eyes.
And later, Erika turns up the heat in the middle of the day.
I always say I'm having a respectable love affair with Erika Slezak.
Next,
I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby, darling.
In 1983, Erika Slezak had been playing the role of Vicky Buchanan on One Life to Live for 12 years.
Oh, boy.
True to soap opera form, she was playing wildly different storylines. In addition to her long-established split personality, Vicky also had a string of broken relationships, an evil arch-rival, and had stood trial for murder. And that was on a good day. Happily married with 2 children, Erika's home life bore no resemblance to the over-the-top melodrama of her on-screen life. Then, on April 21st, everything changed.
I got a phone call at 11 o'clock at night from my mother, hysterical.
Erika's father had committed suicide at his home on Long Island.
He'd shot himself, which was horrible. It was horrible.
The news was completely unexpected.
We discovered afterwards that they did an autopsy and they discovered there was pressure on his brain. And he was in the very beginning stages of Alzheimer's, which he was starting to recognize because he would ask you a question and you'd answer him. And literally 30 seconds later, he would ask you the identical question in the same tone of voice. He hated being sick. He didn't like being dependent on anyone. He had been totally, completely independent all his life. He had a horror of spending his declining years in a wheelchair, having somebody push him around, you know, and clean his chin off. And he apparently, she told me this afterwards, he had always said he would never, ever do that to anybody. He would take his own life first.
She was devastated and very, very, very angry. Very angry. And she was angry for, I would guess, 6 months, 9 months, a year. She was, had a very hard time. I don't know whether she sort of slowly came out of it, but it was very difficult for her.
Still reeling from the death of her father, Erika learned she had been nominated for her first Daytime Emmy.
I was nominated that year, the year that he died. Sorry. And I wanted to win so much just for him.
Erika did not win the Emmy that year and lost the opportunity to thank the one person for whom the award would have meant the most.
I didn't really care that I didn't win, but I wanted to win for him. He would have been very proud.
Erika poured her grief into her work.
Having work, I think, that where she can put her emotions to use was probably very helpful.
I think as you get older and have life experience, and as your life spans out and deepens and gets richer, your performances will naturally reflect that. I'm sure that what I went through with my father dying changed me as a person.
Despite the tragic loss, Erika continued to deliver award-winning performances. In 1984, she was nominated for another Daytime Emmy, and this time she won.
When he read my name, I thought, oh my God, this is a joke. Because he went, Erika Slezak. And I thought, he's now going to go, gotcha, it's not really you, just doing it as a joke. And then Brian was saying, get up, get up.
After winning her first Daytime Emmy, it seemed Erika had arrived. But in the aftermath of her great triumph, there was another tragedy. While on a family vacation in August 1984, Erika learned that her mother, Johanna, had suffered a fatal asthma attack.
It was a beautiful day in August. We'd been out boating with some friends of theirs. We walked into the house. The kids were small and laughing and running around, and the phone rang. And Erika answered the phone and screamed, "Oh no." And you could immediately tell that something devastating had happened.
She had the ability to make unbelievably close friendships. She was devoted to my father. She was a wonderful mother. She was the best listener that I could ever imagine. She was super. And she never got over my father's death, ever.
I think then I was supported during that period of time, you know. I don't really know how, but just by being there, because she was very angry.
I lost them a year and 4 months apart. It was the hardest time of my whole life.
Everything is confused.
Once again, her work became a place to channel her grief. And in the coming years, the writers at One Life to Live introduced a new storyline for Vicky.
You tell her she might just as well give up right now, because I ain't never gonna let her win.
It seemed her alter ego, Nikki, had splintered into 6 different personalities.
When they're in doubt, they write another personality. And she takes them to the max. I'm talking about the windows, her eyes. You see what's going on in this woman, and there's another character there.
You be Vicky, and then you'll have to be Nikki, and then Vicky again.
I can do that.
I know you can. She was very cautious about making sure that there was some validity, some medical background, to make sure that it made sense.
Look, I'm sick of this, okay? Shut up.
She was Nikki being Vicky, and of course I thought she was Vicky. It was Icky.
So they're kissing and kissing and kissing, and then we...
I said later, I had the best seat in the house, because I was trying not to watch because I was in it, but a couple of times you couldn't help being awed by, that's amazing. The difference in these alters and how she's doing an alter pretending to be her. It was really phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it.
Her dedication and the kind of work she does could be on a great stage anywhere. It could be on a big screen.
The Emmy goes to Erika Slezak, One Life to Live.
Over the next 11 years, Erika's mesmerizing performances would earn her 4 more Emmys.
I'm surprised she doesn't win every year.
The wins are amazing. You try not to be nervous, and it doesn't work. And you always have to put on a dress and a high heel. And I always worry because they've always got steps. I said, how unfair can you be to us? Somebody's going to take a nosedive one of these days.
I would like to say how proud I am to be included in the company of such extraordinary nominees. Really.
But Erika's victories created a media frenzy. Fellow daytime diva Susan Lucci, nominated 16 times for her work on All My Children, had yet to take home an Emmy of her own. The press had a field day with Lucci's losing streak, at Erika's expense.
Your heart is pounding and you're carrying this wonderful statue and you're thinking, oh my God, this is so fabulous, and they rush you off to a press room and the first thing they say is, so how does it feel? You beat Susan again. Is she ever gonna win this Emmy, do you think?
The Emmy Awards became less about who won than why Susan Lucci didn't win. Many of us felt like the winner wasn't actually being celebrated in the way that someone who has attained that honor from their peers deserved to be. The people who sat and judged said, it's this woman's contribution that made this scene so good.
Coming up, Erika makes peace with her father's passing.
Yes, he was very proud of what I accomplished.
Same room, same bed, same two characters at the crossroads.
What do you suppose they'll do this time?
Same as they did last time, find their way to each other.
On March 17, 2001, Erika Slezak celebrated her 30th anniversary as Victoria Lord Davidson on One Life to Live.
I need you, Ben, more than ever. Please, I can't go through this without you.
Her enduring success as one of the great divas of daytime should come as no surprise. She grew up in the shadow of her famous father, the actor Walter Slezak, determined to prove herself in his eyes. But it was only after his tragic death in 1983 that she began to encounter the kind of success most actors only dream of.
I'm a very poor example of an actor's life. If you look at the majority of actors, they're not in a job for 31 years making money and with a comfortable lifestyle.
I wouldn't mind following him out, if I may.
That'd be great.
As Erika's children grew up, she was eager to take on more acting jobs if time would allow, but ultimately she preferred the frantic demands of daytime.
Folks, everybody just listen up for a second. Tracy and Larry, just give me a second here, because this is all going to change. So on, put shot 42 on camera 2. Howie? Yeah. After shot 40, repo upstage. Through there.
We come in the morning, we rehearse, and we shoot it all in one day. We don't do a second take if we don't have to, because there's no time. We turn out the equivalent of a full-length movie every 2.5 days.
Even so, the schedule has allowed her to always put her family first.
The best thing about the job is it has allowed me to be a mother. It has given me the time, the opportunity to be a hands-on mother. This is going to be so fabulous on you.
And her colleagues on One Life to Live say she is as much the matriarch on the set as she is off.
Honey, you cannot spend Valentine's Day with your mother.
She's always looking out for your best interest, and there's not a selfish bone in her body.
Could we do Vicky up top? Just shoot the Vicky stuff up top?
Absolutely, that's easy.
Because I'm in a different outfit.
She's the glue that holds the show together. And she does that just by her presence and by her own work habits.
Erika has a wonderful way about her that when she's teaching another actor or telling another actor something or giving them some advice, she does it in a way that she's sharing.
What do you are absolutely shocked. The one person
Vicky
who could
was always like...
And she's inviting them into the club of knowing more and learning more.
She's even been known to share one of her oldest acting tricks.
The hallmark of daytime is that close-up of, oh my God, what is she going to do? And you have to hold that look. Does anyone in real life, especially at the end of an argument or an emotional scene, oh my God, I can't!
And Erika says, just think about what you're going to have for dinner.
Which always works. Because when you're really confused, you look interesting.
You're thinking, yes, I need to pick up some lettuce.
Pork chops, applesauce, peas, no peas. Hold the look. Sex.
You get a kick out of embarrassing me?
I get a kick out of you, yes.
Today, Erika's character Vicky enjoys one of daytime's sexiest May-December romances.
If you look at the history of daytime, it always seems to be the other way around. The older guy gets the younger woman.
But I said, as long as they fudge the ages and don't make me look like a cradle robber.
She made it easy, because she's easy to fall in love with, and we have so much fun. How's my Valentine?
Oh, I'm very lonely for you.
I'm on my way. Meet me in the attic. We have sex everywhere. I mean, we used to kid, we don't have sex in the beds. We have it in the attic. We've had it on a pool table, against a wall.
It's your doctor's office, line 2?
The show has also taken on socially relevant topics such as breast cancer.
Boy, you learn a lot in life, and you learn even more on television.
And initially there was some resistance because nobody wants to see an entertainment show about a very serious and sometimes deadly subject like breast cancer.
I'm afraid the news from pathology is not good. The tumor is malignant.
The story followed Vicki from her initial diagnosis through her subsequent treatment.
There were times when she totally fell apart and was as scared as anyone has ever been in their life. Because there's not a damn thing you can do about it. All the money in the world doesn't buy you health.
The storyline has prompted Erika to lend her support raising breast cancer awareness through the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation.
I'm very happy to be associated with them. I've been to some meetings with some of the people. Extraordinary people. People who've been through death and come out the other side. And they're tough. And they're brave.
Is this yours?
Yeah.
Run now, run, Erika.
Despite volunteering part-time and appearing in a daytime soap opera, with Michael and Amanda now older and on their own, things seem a lot quieter at home.
When I played baseball when I was in 2nd grade, they nicknamed me Whitey Ford because the only person I ever hit was the teacher. I thought, this is disaster.
That's hard, I find, when they're so far away. Every once in a while, my heart goes, where are they? Yeah, and I'd see pictures of them when they're little, and I want to go back to that.
And then all of a sudden, we looked at each other one night and said, you know what? It's quiet. It's kind of nice. And now when they come home, it's like, kids are coming home. It's not so quiet anymore.
Because they come back, that's the problem.
Amanda sent a postcard with the Last Supper.
Erika continues to play matriarch of the Slezak theatrical dynasty. Her daughter, Amanda, appears to have inherited the family acting gene.
I think it's nice when families stay in the business. Although I don't wish it on her if she wants to do it, and I wish her all the luck in the world.
Now let's say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! As far back as I can think, it's all I wanted to do.
As Erika's daughter's career prepares to take flight, Erika continues to honor her father's memory every day. It appears the Slezak tradition stands a strong chance of enduring for another generation.
I have 5 Emmy Awards for Best Actress, and nobody else has that. And he would have been just stunned by that. He liked the show, he watched the show. Not so much as a viewer, but as a parent. And he would say, oh, you were wonderful today. I loved what you did. I loved the way you did this, the way you said that.
I think he was so pleased that she had a job, a very, very good job. But I think she would have liked to have shown off a bit in his eyes on the stage.
My life has been like big magic. And I'm not really waiting for the shoe to drop, but I keep thinking, you know, one day I have to pay for all of this. I hope I don't, but I would like to be here tomorrow. That's as far as we can look ahead. Just tomorrow.
Back at her average suburban life, Erika Slezak has been dealing with something many women face sooner or later. The kids have left the nest. Well, with some extra time on her hands, don't be surprised if Erika returns to her first love, the theater. We know one great actor who would have been very proud. For Lifetime's Intimate Portrait, I'm Meredith Vieira.
Playing around without the clowns and the wanksters. Good girls gonna check up on